Okay.
Okay.
And we have a few more minutes here, so we'll
Yeah.
wait until about 10:31 or so. Okay.
Okay. Oh, Eileen Cooper is.
Hi,
Yep.
Steve. Hi,
Hi.
Rose. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. I recognize your name from some emails we got back and forth.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, thank you for I kind of lost track of the dates. So I'm like all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, the presentation has to be done by Wednesday.
Okay,
So
and you got my email that shows you the PowerPoint template and what the judges are looking for?
yeah, I have
Yeah.
a couple questions about that. Would now be a good time to ask?
No,
Or...
we're going to go over it.
Okay.
That's what this meeting's about.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. I have to switch to my car at about 11:10 because my kids have a hockey tournament we have to drive to. But
We're hoping to be done before then, so we'll see how it goes.
oh, excellent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
we're pretty efficient.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to go get some water. I'll be right back.
Okay. So this morning you'll be able to put a face to a name now. You've seen our emails, and here we are. So
Yeah. Are they going to be doing any fun stuff with the kids? Or is it because of COVID, it's kind of just the fair? Because like when I did the fair back a bazillion years ago, like we went, there was like a party at the Air and Space Museum and there was other stuff that was.
we will no longer have the Parents' Day. That's kind of something that wasn't well attended and so on. But there will be viewing by the public of the projects on Saturday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. of Fair Week. So that would be around March the 18th, I believe. Okay, so we'll have that. In addition, we are going to have a booth this year at the San Diego Festival of Science and Engineering, which is this huge celebration of science and engineering put on by Biocom. That will be on Saturday, March the 4th, pretty much all day at Petco Park.
No, but I mean like for the kids, like
there's nothing that the award ceremony this year. We're planning on something in El Cajon, and I guess that's kind of the celebration of their science and engineering achievements. So.
But there's no like parties and stuff for them.
No, no. Well, we'll wait about one more minute, ladies and gentlemen, and then we will get going here. Okay, we'll go ahead and start here. Welcome to this GSDSEF Teachers Workshop on Screening. Today we'll be going through what it takes for a student to do well in screening and then be able to go on to the application payment and get into the actual GSDSEF. My name is Steve Rodecker. I'm Fair Director of the Greater San Diego Science and Engineering Fair. Today, most of the presentation will be handled by Rose Armour, who is the coordinator of the SRC, as well as screening in the organization. My voice is probably going to give out here, so I'm just going to take on bits and pieces of this morning. Please know that we are recording this, and we will be able to send it out later on. I'm also going to make some of the slides available to you that I think would be valuable, so we'll be doing that. If you have questions, since there are just a few of us, go ahead and please interrupt and ask the question. Usually we would go with questions in the chat. You can do that if you wish, but please go ahead and just ask your questions orally if you wish as well during the presentation. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Rose Armour, who will be taking on the bulk of the presentation this morning. So Rose, please.
Okay, thank you for joining us on this nice Saturday morning with rain on the way. Today we're looking at how to make a good slide presentation and what the judges basically are looking for. Why is this? It won't advance.
Uh-oh.
I don't know why.
You're using your arrows?
I am.
Okay. Well,
There we go.
there we go. Okay, it was asleep.
Okay, let's try to get back a little bit. I don't know what's going on with my computer. I don't know. I'm not sure. Am I not doing the things right?
No,
I mean,
it should be exactly like we showed here.
All righty. Well, first.
Since there are some issues here, do you want me to go ahead and share my screen then?
Yeah, why don't you? I'll stop sharing.
Okay, I think we
Don't know why.
do that. The best laid plans sometimes here.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not sure why. And we practiced this 3 times.
Yes, and we'll go from here. I'm not going to use the presentation mode. My computer doesn't like that. So let's go ahead and I'll skip down.
Okay, and I'll just say when to advance. Okay, so
okay, sure.
So the first thing we'll talk about are the deadlines that are coming up.
Okay.
And for 6th and 7th grade, January 18th is when 6th and 7th graders should be entering their slide deck. They should have already got SRC approval, and they are now on their way to going to a quality screening. And this quality screening is not the same as judging. It's sort of a pass, no pass, where judging is like a grade. And when the screeners look at the projects, oftentimes they will give feedback. Even if it's accepted, they might give feedback to the student to how to make it a little bit better. So it would behoove you to log in and look at your student projects and look at the feedback that was given to them from the screeners. That should be, I think if you click on the students, I think it's if you click on their title, you go to their page and it tells you what has happened. So 8th graders, January 27th, 9th through 12th graders, February 6th, and then all project submissions as well as application, which we'll talk about in a bit, are due February 22nd. And if the project should be resubmitted, they should resubmit it as soon as possible. That way it gives the screeners time to look at the project again. Okay, next.
Moving on.
I have a question at the bottom. It says 10 slide digital project.
Yeah.
Is that a hard maximum, or could they have like 12?
It's 10 plus a title page. If it's 12, it's okay. If it's 25, it's not okay. If it's 15, it's not okay. You know, I looked at a project the other day that had 28 slides. I didn't even look at it. I just sent it back for resubmission because the screeners cannot go through all those slides. This is a short presentation selling your idea to the screeners. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
12 would be okay. Beyond that, probably not. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay, and then you should have received the template to give to your students. It's and we'll go through that template as we go through this presentation.
okay.
If you haven't, let me know. So creating the digital project. So the first slide should, and this is a summary of what we're going to talk about. The first slide just has all information. The next slide, the abstract, which is probably the most important slide in the whole project next to graphs and data tables, is a summary of everything that you've done. And we're going to go over that in a little bit of detail in a bit. Background research, you want to just summarize some of the things that the student has researched in getting to this project. And then we have the statement of purpose, the problem, and the hypothesis. Materials are optional. You don't really have to put those in. And then the procedure, you need to give a fairly detailed procedure, as well as being very clear as to how many trials you had, or how many subjects you had, or how many, in case of an engineering project, how many iterations of the project, of the device that you made. And then the procedure with photos are always very nice to get. So you can continue with the procedure if you need to on another slide.
Let me go back here.
And then we have results and we're looking at statistical. We'd like to see some statistics done. At the very minimum, every student should be doing a mean or an average. And then they can compare those averages to the control by finding a % change or something like that. If they want to, if they are able to, they can do some standard deviations, or you know, do an average with the minimum and maximum values for each treatment, that sort of thing. We really would like to see some of that math brought into it. And then we have the conclusion and discussion and references. There should be a minimum of 5 for middle school and 10 for high school. Any questions on that? We are really going to, I have not been able to find the,
And onto, there we are.
okay. Steve, could you, Beth sent a note. Let me see, I've not been able to find the template. Yes, we did email them.
Yes, I'll mention here, the emails, or the templates have to be emails. We cannot put them on the website because it is a PowerPoint program, and we want the students to be able to just fill it. As you can see, erase the template, fill in their own information all along the way. And we don't have the capability of putting something on the website which is downloadable as a PowerPoint. So we have sent that to you. Rose has sent that to you.
Probably
so
3 times.
Emails, yeah, if you look in your emails, please.
Now, Beth, you
project template. So
yeah, Beth, you I think came on board a little bit late. So if you did not get that that email with the PowerPoint, just shoot me an email and I will get it to you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I know you were a little bit late in the system. And Eileen, I already sent you yours, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I got it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so on the title page, you just erase what's there and put in your information. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
And that slide is the one that if the students want to decorate it, they can. But beyond that, we would really like to see only black and white. Most of our screeners are elderly, including myself. And it's hard on the eyes when you're looking at so many projects to see, a bright blue background with light blue text and whatever. So the best the easiest is just a black and white presentation. Now, Steve, do you want to talk about the abstract now?
Okay, yeah, as Rose mentioned, the abstract is probably the most important part of the project, kind of in the same category as results and conclusion. And the reason for that is that this is the first thing that judges see. Students this year are going to be loading their abstracts right into the application. Those are going to be sent to professional society judges, for example. So the abstract is extremely important. Now, what is an abstract? Is simply a summary of what the students did, okay? And it has to be a summary of the entire project. Too oftentimes the students may put a problem, a hypothesis, a procedure, and that's it. So please note that the abstract is a summary of the entire project. And with engineering, it will differ a little bit. Rather than there'll be a purpose, typically there'll be the engineering, design and testing and redesign described, and the final design success is then evaluated. Please notice 250 words or fewer. And so it has to be short and succinct. Okay, and as Rose has already pointed out here, okay, maximum of 2 fonts or 2 font colors, but she prefers one, just black font throughout.
Yeah.
Black font throughout, if possible, please, okay? Only graphics related to your project. Now, we're going to go through just a couple of pages about abstract here as well. And if you want these to help students to write abstracts, I'll be happy to send you. We have about 4 or 5 slides here about writing an abstract. So I'm going to go through them quickly. I will be happy to send you these slides. An abstract, again, is a summary. This shows the distinction between a science and an engineering abstract. Okay, so there's a slide about that. How to write a strong abstract tutorial, and this gives the 4-paragraph summary of this. Okay.
I have a question.
Question, sure.
So do you want it written as like a paragraph?
Yes.
Or because the sample on the website, like on your website, you have a sample one that for a project, like a fake project or someone else's, and it like had headers like procedure, and they just described that in a sentence, and then it said hypothesis, like it drew them out. So you want it though in just one?
It can be in paragraph form. Some students will label the sections. They will put problem, they will put hypothesis, and so on. But that is up to you, okay? As long as it is very distinguishable what the problem statement is, or what you're looking at in engineering. Also, hypothesis doesn't have to be labeled, but it still needs to be a hypothesis. The procedure can be written as a paragraph or in a bulleted form. So there are various different ways of doing this correctly, as long as the salient, the most important information is in there. So.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, no, that's perfect.
And that was a good question. Yeah.
Good question. So thank you. Okay, so moving on here. All right, best practices for writing a strong abstract. Okay. One thing that we would, I think, like to see here, if you look at the very last bullet point there, please have students take their abstract and run it through a spell checker of some sort, and then perhaps also through a grammar checker. like Grammarly or something like that, just to make sure everything makes sense in spelling and grammar, because bad spelling throughout an abstract does distract from the
It
science.
does.
So-
Yeah, I had one project a couple years ago where the student got ITS and IT apostrophe S mixed up. And it was so distracting to read his project that I sent him an email and I said, please, I explained what the difference between the two were. And I said, if you want to, have the judges not worry about your grammar, please change it. And I think he did. He did get a nice prize also, but it wasn't because of his grammar. He had a nice project, but small things like that matter.
Okay. And then moving on here to, once again, just some a template for writing a basic science abstract, okay, in the 4 paragraphs. And then we also have an abstract template here on writing an engineering abstract. So if you are interested at all in receiving just these slides about an abstract, please email me, okay? And I will be happy to send you those slides if you would like to share them with your students, because, and this is the only thing that we're really going to make a big deal out. The rest of this is just going to be going through each of the slides of the template. So, but you can see we did put some emphasis on the abstract. Okay, first of all, any questions about the abstract before we move on here?
And it is the last thing that the student writes,
Yes,
although it's put first in the book.
it goes first, yes.
Mhm.
Okay, then
Can you
we'll
just
move on.
go
Yes,
back
question.
to the previous slide for a second? I'll just take a picture of it. That way you don't have to email it to me. Can you
Okay,
just go
which one would you like again, please?
The previous one.
slide 12? That one. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I'm good. Thanks.
Screenshot, and did you want
Okay.
this one as well?
No, I'm good. He's just
All right.
he's doing science.
Okay, so the next page on here, page 2, is background research. So
Okay, so for the background research, you don't obviously, kids are writing sometimes 5 to 10 pages of background research as they go through their project. You just want a summary of the highlights of what you've done, the research that you've done, in order to get to how you did the procedure and how the results fared out. Okay.
Does it
Next,
have
yeah.
to be about 400? Like currently his background's about 175.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, it's 400 should be the max. If he has explained in 175 words what he researched, go for it.
Thank
Okay?
you.
You're welcome.
okay,
Okay, so then the statement of purpose and hypothesis, it's nice to have an if-then statement if it is acceptable for that project. For an engineering project, your hypothesis is you want to say, I will construct this and make it do X, Y, and Z. Materials are optional. Since this is an abbreviated version of your project, if you don't have space for that, absolutely, you can leave them out unless some material is important to the integrity of the project. And that you might be talking about in your results or something like that. And we prefer metric. It's really hard to get the kids to do metric, but we'd like to keep trying to insist, but we don't exclude them if they're not metric. Right,
yes,
Steve?
but I would put in a plea. Please,
I know.
metric. Please make things metric. It's
Yeah.
just easier for everybody that way. But
And
okay.
another thing to be careful with, I always told my students when I taught that you can't have a naked number.
Let me see.
It should have some kind of units to, if you're saying that I set the temperature of the oven at 250, well, I want to know if it's centigrade or Fahrenheit. That's a huge difference. So try to avoid these naked numbers. They really I think something crashed on Mars because one group of people was working with metric and one was working with inches, and it crashed.
Yes.
So we do need to be careful. Oh, not that we're crashing anything on Mars, but okay, next slide. Procedure, again, you want to make it sufficient enough to allow the screener to understand what you've done. You don't have to put every little bit, like I scooped in 2 things of soil, you know, whatever it, you know, so just you want to have sufficient information that I grew XYZ plants using Miracle Grow and no fertilizer and some kind of you know whatever manure, you know, so that you see what you've done for your different things. Controls are very, very important. You have to have something that you compare it to. So if you want to see if Miracle Grow works, you've got to have a control with plants that have no Miracle Grow, so you can compare the two. And 3 or 4 plants in that kind of experiment does not make an experiment. It will be rejected. With plants, I always told my students to use like little styrofoam cups or even eggshell cartons. Not eggs are so expensive now, but you know, so that you have like 20, 30, 40 per treatment, and it doesn't cost a lot. So far in the projects I've seen, we haven't gotten that many where the student just copied the procedure from the internet. There are some that are still there, but we're really trying to discourage that. They certainly can use the idea from the internet, but they need to make it their own. They need to tweak it some way so that it's not just copying and pasting. And metric system, please. Okay, next.
Okay, and I would add here before we go on that students specify amounts that they are using or concentrations that they are using. If they are using Miracle Grow, you know, say in accordance with the directions on the Miracle Grow bottle, you know, and I added, you know, 3 milliliters to 3.75 liters of water, and, you know, mixed it. And then I made concentrations that were 10% of this and 50% of this. And so it shows once again that if somebody were to come through and read this procedure, they could redo the experiment pretty much. So, okay, moving on here. And again, procedure. Yes.
Okay, so the procedure again, photographs really can be very, very helpful for the judges to look at, because you get an idea of what was just described to you in the procedure. So, and then you can also show results as well with pictures. And you can show your face, but you can't have other students' faces, and adults need to give permission to have their faces appear. Okay.
Moving on.
If much of the experiment is like working with data and he's not really doing anything photo worthy, is it going to detract from his presentation that there's no photos?
No, no. It's
Okay.
only, there are some projects that really lend themselves to photos, and then there are some that don't. And if he's manipulating data from some source or whatever, obviously that's not, it's something that, you know, requires a photo. Okay.
Okay, moving on here.
And then, okay, so now results. Data tables, graphs, and charts. Students, for whatever reason, love circle graphs. And circle graphs are very rarely applicable to their data. For the most part, they're looking at bar graphs. You want an X and Y axis labeled. You want a title for the graph. You want the graph in, not these 3D whatever. You just want a plain nice bar graph, obviously with different colors, whatever, to help with the so this judges can see it. And it's really important to have how many trials they did. I just screened a project the other day, and she had all this data, but I wasn't sure if she had tested 2 people or if she had tested 10 people. And so I sent it back and I said, make it evident on each graph how many subjects there were, which she did. So you want to make sure that you do that. With engineering, it's nice to have pictures for that. And then for statistical analysis, definitely a mean, percent change. You could do, if you want to do the mode and look at the mode versus the mean, look at minimum and maximum to see how much the different categories bled into each other, that sort of thing. Any questions on that?
Okay.
Graphs and data tables are really, really important.
And continuing with results, you can see how important that is.
Yeah. And even with the procedure, we had 2 slides for the procedure, but you can certainly make 1 slide for your procedure and 2 or 3 slides for your results, with lots of graphs and data tables, and then an explanation of what is on those. So you put up a graph, and I would always have my students have the graph in front of them and then talk about it. In this graph, this and this is shown. There were 54 people who said this and 24 people who said this. There were double the amount of people who said this. Just sort of with words and numbers discussing the graphs and whatever. And then with engineering, you want to just talk about how each prototype changed and how it became better.
Okay.
Okay.
And then more results.
More results. Again, so it says a short written summary of the results, comparing of the control. You always want to do that. And then you want to state facts. You don't want to analyze. You want to say, there were 50% more people chose this, and that's all you say. And then when you get into the analysis, you can talk about why you think that happened.
Okay, and let's go there then.
So I have a question about that. So trying to fit the data table results and the graph results all onto the slides, it looks much cleaner when they're on separate slides than when it's all squished on one to try and make it fit. Does he need to show the data table if he has a graph of that same data?
No, that I would say not. If he's worried about space, certainly the graph is more important, and then he can talk about the graph and talk about his data table, about what was the maximum and minimum and how many trials were done and that sort of thing. So don't you agree, Steve, that the graph is?
Yes, and one thing that I would mention here is, let's say in a particular experiment, a student had done 20 trials with 25 plants each and so on. For this particular type of presentation, it is not necessary to show every individual graph.
Right.
For this, it would be a cumulative graph. So if there are 1 or 2 graphs which summarize the information from the experiment, That's the most important thing for screeners to see, not every individual trial with that
Right.
granularity for this particular document. Does that help? So we're looking for cumulative information here in 2 or
So
3
he could
tables
take
or 2 or
out
3
the
graphs. Excuse me.
he could take out the data tables that are represented in graphical form.
For the most part, yes, I think.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not
Except
sure
for
what
a
he's.
cumulative, if there's a cumulative graph,
Right,
yeah, then use that by all means, because it's always good to show a graph and then, or excuse me, a table and then the graph, which was
right.
derived from that table. But in this instance, particularly cumulative information
Mhm.
analyzed, you've put together the various trials and here so that somebody can get an overview of what went on. Is that,
Okay.
Eileen, is
I mean,
that?
is it okay if the slides are crowded because we're trying to make it fit on the,
Well, they have to be readable.
yeah, it's readable, it's just crowded. It's not very aesthetic because he's trying to fit everything.
Well, maybe he needs to be a little bit more selective into what he's putting into them.
Okay.
And concentrate more on the final averages rather than all of the individual
Trials and so on, yeah.
trials. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Does that
thank
help?
you.
Okay,
I think so, thanks.
great, thank you, Eileen, yes. Okay, so moving on here, then, so as you can see, 3 pages devoted to results. But as Rose mentioned, you can change the numbers, but you can't go over 10.
Yeah.
You know, that's the number one thing here. Okay,
And then for your final conclusion, you just connect your question and hypothesis with your conclusion. Or with your final results, I'm sorry. And say that, you know, the data supported this problem, or it wasn't clear, there wasn't, you know, it seemed like it was the same or whatever. Does that, you just want to, I always like short and sweet conclusions. You know, I tested whether bananas ripen faster in brown bags, and my data showed that there was no difference between a banana ripening on the countertop versus in a brown bag, and that's your conclusion.
very simple there, so, okay.
Yeah.
And final page here.
And then references, they need to put some references in. I sent a project back because it didn't have any references, and it was a high school project, and I'm sure the kid was a little bit upset, but we do need to see some works cited.
Now, sometimes we get a question here too, which kind of format should you be using for the references cited page?
Mhm.
You can choose MLA if you would like, but it's just that there is uniformity. That if a student uses MLA for one kind of source, that it is used throughout. If they pick a different type of format, that it is used throughout, so. Okay, and submitting. So now, when students have finished, Rose? you
Okay,
wanna-
so when the students have made their slide deck and they've saved it as a PDF, and you've gone over all of the spelling and making sure all the graphs have labels and titles and all the numbers make sense, you then submit it, and the student's project it'll say SRC pre-approval accepted, proceed to project. And then when the student logs in, I think it'll say edit, and they click on edit and they can go in and then upload their PowerPoint to that. And then at the very bottom, they change the thing from draft to submit. If the student doesn't change it to submit, we cannot look at it at all. It doesn't, nothing happens on our side. So make sure that you change at the very bottom where it says project, put project submitted. And then you have to go down below and there's a submit button. And it will come into to our queue, and we will send it off to screeners who will look at it. And they will oftentimes make comments, either maybe something has to be changed to make the project acceptable, or it's accepted, but it would be nice if you, in your final presentation in the fair, you did this or this. And then there's the project not accepted, and usually the judges will explain why they didn't accept the project.
Okay, and I'm going to go to that right now. So Rose, if you want
to. Okay, yeah. So sometimes a project is a demonstration, or it's a research paper. We don't do either of those. If there's no control, or they have only 3 plants per treatment, or they've tested 5 5 subjects. You've been sent a list of what the screeners are looking for. So you do wanna, and that was sent out at the beginning of the year as well. And then just make sure that you monitor your status, and because you don't get notified by email when your status changes. So once the project is submitted to us, the screeners screen it, they make their decision. If your project is accepted, you then go to your status, the status of your project, and you click apply, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And apply, you fill out then they're about name, address, parent's name, email, teacher name, school, project title, and there's a place for an abstract there, and that abstract will be used to send to the professional societies. Steve, am I correct on that?
Correct.
And professional societies give out all kinds of awards for different projects. I think on our website, Steve, if I'm not mistaken, there's a list of professional societies that
I believe so, but we're going to be sending one around. So
okay, all right.
Okay.
And then they fill that out, and then the final thing is they need to pay. That just got resolved today. So it's now, they are accepting payment. The fee is $50. It costs us many thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to put on this fair and the awards ceremony. So we are a nonprofit. Nobody gets paid. We're all volunteers. So all that money goes to the running of the fair and the award ceremony.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay.
And then at the very end, you'll say, "See you at the fair." That will be the final status.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
With that, I would like to now go out. I'm going to stop sharing on this. And what I would like to do now is to show you a couple of very important resources for your students and for yourself as far as screening is concerned. So I'm going to share the screen here again. And this time I'm going to go to the GSDSEF website. Okay, and there it is. And what this is showing now, this is just the home page, and you can see what the URL is right there, gsdsef.org. And, I hate it when people flash around on these websites and you can barely follow what they're doing. So I'm going to do this very slowly. GSDSEF.org. We're then going to go to students right here, open up the drop-down menu. We're going to go to how to participate. Click on how to participate. And we are now going to go down to screening. So we're going to slowly now scroll down, okay, through all of this, okay, which students have done, working on right now. And we're going to go down to the resources that show what they need. And let's see, where were they here? Oh,
No, you just need
Yeah,
to go
okay.
down more.
Yeah, we need to go down and let's see, screening process, and here we are. Okay, so this particular resource right here, the digital project slide deck template, that you have already received from, you've already received this, okay? Now we're going to go to digital project example. There it is. And I'm going to click on digital project example. And what will come up now is all of the information from a fake project, as you can see from the names, okay? And then it shows an abstract here, okay? Notice that in this case, some of the parts have been labeled like procedure and results and conclusion, but not all.
And
Okay.
it doesn't have to be.
And it doesn't have to be. Background information, problem, hypothesis. We put materials on here. That's optional. The procedure, okay, and it with pictures, as you can see in this case, there's the procedure with pictures. Result, okay, the results. The compiled results now, and you can see the tables here are fairly small, okay, but still very legible. Okay, again, results, a conclusion, and then the references here. So this is a complete example for students to look at as they work on their own slide deck. Okay, and we'll go back here then. And the next resource that I'd like to show is what screeners are looking for. So this gives you a good idea. Okay, what are screeners looking for in a GSDSEF project? You can read through this and it gives you tips about what the screeners are actually looking for in order to say this project goes through screening, okay? So those are two important resources that you can use that are on the website. Again,
And I've sent that, what screeners are looking for. I think I've sent that in my last 3 or 4 emails.
And again, it is under students at the GSDSEF website, how to participate, and going down, as you saw, to step number 8, the screening process. So some very good resources there. Okay. And we'll stop share on that. Okay, so at the end here, are there any questions that you have remaining about the screening process for Rose or myself?
I don't, but thank you so much. It's been very helpful. Thank
I'm
you.
glad.
I really
Good.
appreciate
Glad
it.
to hear it. Glad to hear
Glad.
it. Okay.
Yes, this is very helpful.
Okay.
You did mention the abstract that
Mhm.
would be turned in, that you will send on. Is that pulled from the slide deck or is that a separate submission?
Do you want to
It
answer that,
it
Steve?
is a separate submission. Okay,
It
And
is
would that
that,
one be in paragraph form, like a scientific journal article, as opposed to highlighting, pulling out, like the sample you just showed?
it
of
can
the
be
sample
in,
abstract?
it can be in either format.
in either of those formats, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that will be part of the application process. At the very bottom, it'll say, when you fill in all your information, your title and all that other stuff, there'll be a thing that'll say abstract, and you type in the abstract there.
And do you submit that the same time as the slide deck?
It goes in, no. It goes after your project is accepted. You then go to an application and you fill out all of this stuff. your name, all kinds of information. And at the very bottom of that application, it will say abstract. And in there, you type in your abstract, and then you submit the application. At which point it'll then tell you to go to payment. Once it goes to payment and you pay and you say, see you at the fair, we then have access to that abstract to send on to the professional societies.
Perfect.
Does that help?
And yes, it does. And what is the deadline for that? I know the January is coming up for the slide deck,
Right.
but the second submission with the abstract, which is part of the application, is that a separate deadline that's later?
Yes.
Thank you so
sooner.
much. I gotta run,
Okay.
but since we're done, I'm not gonna join with my phone.
Okay.
in the
All right.
car, but I just thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And sorry to interrupt, but
No problem.
okay, thanks.